Hi, welcome back to Live from my parents' basement. I'm your host, Sammy Query. This week I sat down with my friends Isaac Combs and Mitch Hobson as we discussed our favorite movie directors. Talked about the best ones, the worst ones, the best in each genre. Talked about a lot of different things. I sure hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Look at that hair.
It's getting long, that's for sure.
Isaac, that's so long.
I know. I probably won't get cut till August too,
Oh, well,
but just barely a cut though.
I said I wasn't going to shave till August, but it makes my face look too round. So I was like, no. So I trimmed.
Yeah.
It makes me look a lot fatter than I am. So I cannot do it. Can't do it.
You left your fat years behind you. You're not going back.
Well, it's like the thing is, ever since I lost all my weight, it's like I've gained weight back. It's whatever. But it's like I haven't ballooned up. And it's like, maybe that was just all, I don't know. That's weird. I don't know. I'm more conscious of what I eat now. I at least exercise every week. So that's probably a good part of it, why too. So I like your shirt.
Yeah, so do I.
Oh, I thought you were talking to Isaac. His shirt is nice.
Yeah, it is nice and white.
To me one time. I think it's not
Good.
That's funny.
All right. So I thought today we would talk about like directors because anymore, and like I've noticed a trend in movies, it's like anymore, like there's very few actors that are like draws anymore to like come to see a movie. You know, like the only ones maybe The Rock, but no one's going like go to see every Will Smith movie. You know, it's just people stop caring. I think anymore it's more toward directors. And so I was thinking today we could just talk about our favorite directors, maybe talk about our favorite directors in certain genres and things like that. So Isaac, if you want to start off and just talk about who your favorite directors is, we can just go around and discuss it.
Yeah, so I did put down a list, and I think my favorite one right now is probably Christopher Nolan. I'm super excited for Tenet. Of course, his Dark Knight trilogy is the best superhero thing anyone's ever seen. Then also, I love Steven Spielberg, like who doesn't? Martin Scorsese, James Cameron, and Tarantino. So
Yeah.
those are my favorite. So yeah.
The thing with Nolan is he makes consistently good movies, and even his I think I've seen all of them besides Following, which was his first one,
Yeah, same here.
and it's like the worst one out of all of them is Insomnia, and it's still it's better than most movies.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think some people criticize Nolan because, now I think with some of these well-known directors, a lot of times they'll cast the same leads or even some of the same supporting actors or actresses in multiple films. But what I like is that even though he does that at times, he finds a way, and of course they're great actors, and so they find a way as well. But each role that they have is different, right? And so obviously they have a comfortability working with each other, but still the roles that they're cast in, even though the plots of the movies, whether it be, The Prestige, the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, whatever it is, some of the overlap with those actors, DiCaprio, Christian Bale, each role is perfectly cast. And so I feel like if Christian Bale and Christopher Nolan are making a movie together, I don't care if it's their 25th one, I'm going to go watch it because I know it's going to be good.
Absolutely. Same here. And like things with Chris Nolan too is like he makes original content, which is kind of lacking in Hollywood today. So I think he's very creative. He's one of those few directors who's actually making like original stuff today.
And I like and I like for like you were talking about the casting usually goes back to the same people, and like you see Michael Caine's in this, and he's in every single Christopher Nolan film. But I like that for this one, I think he like tried to get some new people. Like he got John David Washington, who's Denzel's son. You got Robert Pattinson, who's looks like he's keeping the British accent for it. And I know me and Isaac are real excited about him playing Batman, but because I know he gets like the Twilight flack, but if you go and watch some of his like newer stuff, he's really good at playing like creepy people, like Good Times Great. When did I watch it? I watched a movie with him recently. I can't remember it, but no, I think I'm really excited for Tenet. I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
And then actually like another category I was going to bring up was best action directors, and you said James Cameron. I'd say he's the best like action movie director there ever was. I don't really know if there's anyone that's going to come close to that, honestly.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Like Go ahead, Mitch.
No, it's tough. It's tough to argue against anybody else being better. And, it kind of, as you were sending out some of the things before we started talking, and I was trying to think, okay, who are some of my favorites overall? Okay. And then as we go down and think about different genres, of course, once these guys assemble a body of work over a number of years, there is some overlap. And so, for the categories of like action, sci-fi, best overall, guys like Steven Spielberg and Ridley Scott, of course, like, okay, where do I put them? Because they have some sci-fi work, they have some action work. And to me, when I was trying to think of this, those were the only two names that I could even come up with that you would even throw out there as contenders. But like you said, I don't think anybody can knock Cameron off.
I completely forgot about Ridley Scott, because I think, in my opinion, probably the three most important probably sci-fi myths, well, technically four, are probably Terminator and Terminator 2. And then there's Alien and Blade Runner. I'd probably say Blade Runner is probably the best sci-fi ever, just because it's very deep for the time. But I completely forgot about Ridley Scott and completely going through this stuff.
Yeah. And, you mentioned for the time. And so this week, when I was there over the weekend, I should say, time is a flat circle, especially during quarantine when all the days are the same. But, I was reading some articles, and one common theme that a lot of articles and a lot of writers brought up was that the best sci-fi films and projects are led by people, writers, producers, directors, who are not limited by the vision or the scope or the information or knowledge of their time, right? They're able to have foresight. They're able to think of things from a completely different angle. And so when you think of a Blade Runner, when you think of an Alien, or whatever it is that Scott's worked on, I think he shows that. He shows that, absolutely. Man, this is something especially for the time. Wow, this is completely different. We've never seen anything like this,
And I don't know if you've seen the new Blade Runner 2049. It's excellent. I rewatched Blade Runner after watching 2049, and I still think the first one's slightly better. But that second one, it's amazing that 30 plus years later they were able to capture the same feel and look, and there's just this sense of dread with all this neon lights, and like I think Ryan Gosling was probably the only choice you could have for that role, because he's amazing at barely talking but conveying so much emotion. So I think he would have been a good Batman. But I don't know. Well, it's like you said, he was able to take that theme, take that whole concept from 1982 or whatever year it was, and it was still the same thing. It was relevant 35 years later.
And, he wasn't a director on the show, I don't think, but he was also involved with The Man in the High Castle. I think he was a producer, an executive producer, and I finished that series, and, I didn't really look much into series when we talked about this topic. I pretty much stuck to movies. But when I was looking up, his resume, that was on there. And it's a really interesting show. Have you guys watched Man in the High Castle?
Yeah, I watched like the first couple of seasons. I thought it was pretty good.
And it goes back to, again, so for those who don't know, the 5-second version is that it's North America if the Allies had lost World War II. And so Japanese control the western half of the country, or the Colorado Rockies west, and then the Nazis control the eastern part of the country. And so it's this alternate timeline, and it's really interesting. So yeah, he was involved in that as well. But that, like I said, Ridley Scott would be, I think, the one. And of course, Steven Spielberg, and for people, and you guys are much more knowledgeable about movies than I am, but from my era, the 90s going back into the 80s and even into the late 70s, Steven Spielberg is one of the greatest of all time across any and all genres, action, sci-fi. So I think you have to throw his name in there as well.
Yes.
No, go ahead, Isaac. Go ahead.
Yeah, like the first time I watched Blade Runner, I didn't really get it, so I didn't really like it. Then I go watch 2049. I love the sequel. And then I go back, like Sammy said, and watch the original. I love the original. I watched the director's cut on Netflix. Yeah. And I loved it. Watching the sequel made me love the original one.
And it's great when movies can feed off of each other. And my favorite movies are Ocean's 11 and 12 and 13. First one's great, second one's okay, third one's good. But I sort of just lump them all together, and each one makes me like the other one more. I love when movies can do that. So like what you said with Blade Runner, I love that when movies can feed off each other like that, make the other ones better. And then, so Mitch, who would you say your your favorite directors are then?
So you mentioned, Christopher Nolan is on my list for sure. Scorsese is on there. I love The Departed is possibly my favorite movie. The Coen brothers, I really like the Coen brothers, who I feel like will probably be on your list, Sammy, as well. And then of course, Tarantino. Love Quentin Tarantino, and a lot of people, it's hot and cold whether you're probably either going to hate him or love him if you've not watched many of his films. The first one or two you watch, that's probably all you're going to need to see. You're either going to love him and want to see all of them, or you're going to hate him and have no interest in watching anymore. So those were my whole that I.
And like, speaking of Tarantino, it's like the other day I actually got around to watching. I watched Django Unchained again, and I think the first time I watched it was like a year after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like that. It was like the sweet spot, because I was like 14, 15 at the time, where I should have loved a movie like that. And I remember thinking, okay, like it's not great. And I rewatched it. It says 6 years later, and it's still. I thought it was good. I don't think it's as amazing as people think it is. I know you don't like it because of the language used throughout it, or you're uncomfortable with it. And I
actually love the movie, but and of course, I mean that's by design. It's supposed to be uncomfortable, and it is. But yeah, if it's not something I'm going to go back and watch anytime it's on, because it's like, you really gotta, it's almost like you kind of have to mentally prepare yourself to go in and listen to that brutal language, just, of course, racial slurs. And it's tough to listen to throughout, but I do like the plot. I do like the acting.
I think like with Tarantino, I do like that movie. I completely forgot the part where it's like Jamie Foxx is like butt naked, upside down, strung up. And I was like, oh, I remember this. I mean, it's like everything shown. I'm like, oh, but it was good. I don't know. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is pretty good in it. I don't think it's as bad. I think besides Pulp Fiction, probably my favorite Tarantino movie is Inglourious Basterds. I love that movie. That is everything I want in a Tarantino movie.
And I think, one of the things, again, for folks who aren't as familiar with his work, one of the notable things about Tarantino films is, of course, he doesn't tell his stories, or he doesn't let the movie progress in a purely linear fashion of going from point A to point B, point C, 1, 2, 3. You go to different scenes with different characters. You go to different places. In some movies, you go back and forth in the timeline. It's not in chronological order. And so Inglourious Basterds does a great job of encapsulating all of those things that he likes to do with his storytelling into one version. And so if you've not seen a Tarantino movie and you want to see his style, I would say Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Basterds, to me, are the two kind of most representative of what he does in general.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I did watch Jackie Brown not too long ago. I didn't like that, but I don't think he wrote the script for that movie. So I can't really lump that into his movies. But also Kill Bill Volume 2 I was not a fan of, and I haven't seen Death Proof yet. But I heard that one's kind of like wacky, but it's still like decent.
I don't like either Kill Bills. I think they're boring. I see no enjoyment. And I'm all right with violence. Violence doesn't bother me. And if it's but I want violence to sort of serve a purpose. I just thought it was really just outwardly silly. And I think it was supposed to, and I know it was supposed to resemble like old 70s Kung Fu films, but it was just, I don't like either of those movies. Like in any capacity, I just think they're just too self-referential. I'm just not a fan of them. I don't know. There's like the only two Tarantino movies I just don't like.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm not a fan either. To me, it's mindless killing for the most part. It's fine. I've watched them now that I've watched them once, and I was younger. I don't remember what years they came out. I was fairly young when the first one came out, and I watched them both once, and that's enough.
Yeah. And then I saw, like, there's the running theme we've been talking about of Steven Spielberg, and I won't deny that he's like one of the top 5, if not the best director there ever was. It's just crazy. It's like you go back and look at his films starting in the 70s through the 90s, and it's like, oh, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I had no idea he directed that. Jaws.
Yep.
All of the Indiana Joneses.
Yeah.
Just like I didn't know any of that. And then I actually listened to I listened to a movie podcast, and they think Spielberg's book are great, but they bring up this good point of pretty much anything post Minority Report, it's been pretty stagnant. It's like pretty good movies, but it's not been like, the once in a lifetime movies like every other movie beforehand. Like even Schindler's List. He directed freaking Schindler's List and then directed Jaws as well. So it's like, I'm not even a big fan of Minority Report, but I get why people like it. But it's like he does Bridge of Spies and The Post. And it's like, you're not really doing anything like very interesting like you were used to be doing. So that's my only like complaint against Spielberg, is he sort of feels like he's stagnated the last 20 years or so.
And I think if I had to pick two, and I love Minority Report, again, mentioned it with Ridley Scott, but taking a concept, how police solve crimes, and coming at it from a completely different angle. And so I really like Minority Report. The two movies that I've liked best since that, and that was 2002, Catch Me If You Can, which
that's great.
Really liked.
That's great.
And I liked Lincoln. I liked Lincoln. It's not a movie that I'm going to watch every year. It's not a movie I'm going to watch a bunch of times. It's long, it's slow, but I just enjoyed it. But it's like you said, it wasn't groundbreaking. It wasn't, a masterpiece. But I did like those two movies.
Yeah, I also liked Ready Player One. That came out a couple years ago. I know like it's off of a book, but still like I loved watching that movie. Like all like the pop culture references it had. Like when they went to the hotel, I was like paying homage to the Shining. I thought that part was awesome.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, all like the pop culture references in that movie was just amazing.
All right, well, we'll get into mine. My favorite directors far and away are the Coen brothers. Sorry, someone's flushing the toilet because I'm in my parents' basement. So like far and away, my favorite directors are the Coen brothers. I love their style. I love that they can do wacky humor and then go really dark crime. They're the best. Yeah, so Coen brothers. I love David Fincher. I love his style. Nolan's on there. I love Martin Scorsese. And I also wrote down Sam Raimi because I like his Spider-Man movies and I love the Evil Dead movies. I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, Coen brothers. You got like I think the decade of like 2000 to 2009, that entire decade, I think the best movie far and away was No Country for Old Men. I watched There Will Be Blood because I know that's their biggest competitor. I watched it recently. It was good. I still think No Country for Old Men's better. Big Lebowski's one of, if not my favorite movie of all time. And I just love their body of work. I'm still working my way through it, but I love almost all their movies.
Well, for me, as I was thinking of this conversation when you first brought it up, okay, do you want directors who had one or two great movies that I love or that had a lot of success? Or do you want directors who have a much longer or broader body of work, right? And they're kind of working on both of those things because to me, if your entire career, all the success you had was The Big Lebowski and No Country for Old Men, each one of those movies to me is one of the best in its respective genre, right? The Big Lebowski is almost totally unique, and a lot of other films have tried to kind of copy the style or just take different elements from it. It'll never be duplicated. If you haven't watched The Big Lebowski, you absolutely need to. And same thing for No Country for Old Men. Crime, taking in elements of classic Western, but with a modern spin. That kind of, and I love the way the movie moves from fast to slow pace throughout. It's just kind of ebbs and flows. But those two movies alone, their career could be built on those two and they could never have any more success and they would be remembered forever.
And like, it's funny that you mentioned like directors that have like just maybe a few really good movies. And like, I don't know, the past couple months, I know like I've liked Westerns all my life. And I know Isaac's been recently getting into them. And Sergio Leone, it's like if you go look in his filmography, he only directed I think 8 movies, and I think at least 6 of them are considered masterpieces. And it's just because there's like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which I still haven't seen the other two movies in that trilogy. I think that's the greatest Western ever. Fistful of Dollars for a few dollars more. Once Upon a Time in the West. It's like a textbook Western in that it's like very long, very slow for most of it, and then there's just so much tension built up to these moments that just explode. And I think he made Once Upon a Time in America, which I haven't seen, but it's one of my grandpa's favorite movies. But it's like you said, or even like Francis Ford Coppola, he made the two Godfathers and Apocalypse Now, pretty much 3 movies. And his Wikipedia says one of the most influential directors of all time. So I like that you mentioned that sometimes directors just need 2 movies and that's enough. Like, people get it after that.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. Like when I put down my favorite directors, like I put like acknowledge Sergio Leone and Francis Ford Coppola. Like I love the Dollars trilogy, and I just recently watched Apocalypse Now. The first 2 acts are great. Like the build-up's awesome, but I didn't think it really paid off once he finally meets Marlon Brando.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, you acknowledge how amazing the guy really is.
I mean, if you go to any critic's list, which I've not done for a long time, but I'm sure even today, if you go to any top 50, top 100, however many you want to choose movies of all time, The Godfather's going to be in the top 2 or 3 on any list across the board. I mean, it just – yeah.
And then I think we should start talking about Scorsese, because I know all 3 of us love Scorsese. I've tried to, like, Departed's great. That's, I think, because I'm a nerd and I went through and I made a list of like top 10 movies of each decade. I think I had Departed 2nd or 3rd on that list because it's great. And then I think, you got Goodfellas, which I almost think it's better than The Godfather because it's so entertaining. It's so entertaining. And The Godfather's entertaining too, but just like Goodfellas is fun. And then he made Taxi Driver, which I think is the greatest film ever made. So I love Scorsese as well.
Yeah, not to mention, Casino, of course, up there with Goodfellas and The Godfather in some circles. Shutter Island, which is a really interesting movie. Gangs of New York. I didn't actually like Gangs of New York a lot, but
same here.
I watched it when I was younger. I don't remember. It came out when I was maybe like 6th or 7th grade, somewhere in there, and I watched it. I know I watched it in high school. Of course, The Wolf of Wall Street. But yeah, I mean, he has both. He has some really, really huge hits and classics, but also, and obviously he's older. I don't know how old he is. I think he was born in the early 40s, maybe at some point. I don't know exactly when, but he's got both. He's got those 5 or 6 all-time classics and a huge body of work that spans across decades. And a lot of times, if you're not paying much attention, you'll see a movie on TV or you're watching something that he was a part of and you don't even know it. So
exactly. He made like a movie. He made a movie like 8 years ago called Hugo. Never seen it, but it's like a little kid movie and he directed it. You never know.
Yep.
Yeah. Also, one of Scorsese's most underrated movies, I think, is Cape Fear. I think it's often forgotten because it comes between like Goodfellas and I forget something else, but like I like it a lot because you see De Niro just really buff and is covered in tattoos. And I think he just plays really psycho, and that's why I really like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Cape Fear. When I think of like Scorsese movies, that's like I love that. It's a great movie. It's just like an odd man out because it doesn't fit what he directs at all. But he was like he went completely out of the genre, and he was great at directing it because it's like a thriller, but it's great movie. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then what else we got to talk about? All right, this one might be harder, but I thought it'd be sort of fun. I put worst director, maybe a director, not even worst, just like a director. It's like consistently that person will make movies and you're just like, just not very good. And for me, I don't think there's a single Michael Bay movie that I've seen that is good in any capacity whatsoever. But somehow they just keep giving him $400 million to make Transformers movies. I don't like any of his stuff at all.
Yeah, I think there's like a couple ones that I like. But yeah, like when I saw that Transformers 5 was coming out, I'm like, are you kidding me? Why is this? Like, I mean, I do like Revenge of the Fallen, Dark Side of the Moon. I know they're not good movies, but like I think they're entertaining.
Yeah.
He makes those just like bum action movies like Pearl Harbor with Ben Affleck. It's like, why was that even made? But I think they're just kind of like trying to capitalize off of James Cameron's Titanic, and it's just an absolute bum. So I don't know.
I agree.
Okay, Sammy, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. How do you feel about Ryan Johnson?
I've only seen 2 of his movies. I don't like The Last Jedi. It's somehow better than The Rise of Skywalker. That's a whole other topic. But I like Knives Out. Like, I thought Knives Out was a pretty solid movie. I thought it was good. I haven't seen Looper. I know Isaac likes it, but
Yeah.
that's the only 2 movies I've seen of his.
And see, I don't love Looper. It's fine to me. It's fine. It's entertaining. It's an interesting concept. I didn't love it. I've watched it twice. I watched it once, when it first came out, and I watched it once again, probably in the last year or two. Like you, I didn't love The Last Jedi. It's fine. It's Star Wars, so I'm going to watch it, and it's fine. And I liked Knives Out, but I feel like he is, especially once his name got attached to Star Wars, it really, really, really started to gain traction. And I feel like he's kind of one of the guys in Hollywood who is dubbed as like the next big thing or one of the next big directors. And I just don't know. I don't know. And I like Knives Out. I didn't love it. I liked it. But I just don't know if he's as good as kind of the publicity that he's been getting over the last, 3-4 years now? 3 years, something like that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Also, I can't really say I'm a huge fan of J.J. Abrams. Rise of Skywalker was crap. I know there's people who like Force Awakens, but again, that movie was just reinventing the wheel with New Hope. And also, I've seen Star Trek Into Darkness, but I know as a whole, diehard Star Trek fans don't like those new movies. So I see J.J. Abrams as a guy who's ruined the Star Trek franchise and partially to blame for Star Wars. But I did like Super 8, though, so that's about it, though.
Like I don't even know how many movies J.J. Abrams has made, but the few I've seen I like pretty well. I think Force Awakens is good. I understand it is a complete retread of A New Hope, but I do like it. It still gets the feel of Star Wars. He completely destroyed Star Wars, in my opinion, with Rise of Skywalker by spoilers. I guess if you haven't seen Star Wars, you wouldn't be listening to this. By just completely making the first 6 movies irrelevant because I guess Palpatine was never defeated and Darth Vader was never the chosen one. Whatever, doesn't matter. Relevant, just ruins 40 years of whatever. But I think the first Star Trek that he made is great, and that's coming from someone who has never seen a lick of Star Trek besides this first new ones. So, and then like I'd say he is to almost thank for revitalizing the Mission Impossible franchise because he came in on the 3rd one. The 3rd one's pretty solid. 4, 5, and 6 are legit, like
they're good.
Great action films.
Yeah,
they're good.
Some of the best action films. Like when Fallout came out, a lot of people were saying this is like top 10 best action film ever, and I'd probably agree with that. So I'd say he's the thank for revitalizing that. And I don't know. I'm split on him still, but I'm really mad at him for his recent endeavors.
Yeah,
and he was also involved in Westworld. I don't know if I haven't watched Westworld.
Yeah, I have.
But he was involved in Westworld, and of course, a lot of people like it. It's an HBO series, right?
Yeah, like I've been watching it. I watched seasons 1 and 2. 1's amazing, 2's good, and then I stopped watching halfway through season 3 because they weren't even in Westworld anymore, and like it was just super boring. So I kind of lost track of that.
And then Mitch, you like Game of Thrones, right?
So first 6 seasons, there will never be another TV show better than the first 6 seasons of Game of Thrones. The last 2 seasons, I fall in with everybody else. It was the biggest disappointment I've ever had. It's a bigger disappointment than Star Wars.
Like
Wow.
I never watched it, mainly because I didn't have a way to watch it, and I wasn't going to buy DVD sets. And I don't know. Everyone and their brother told me it's the greatest thing ever. It's like you're either a Breaking Bad fan or Game of Thrones. I'm a Breaking Bad guy.
I love both.
I love
Breaking Bad.
So,
I don't love it as much as you do, but I love it. It's great. But Game of Thrones at its peak was better, and it wasn't close.
So it sort of made me – like I still don't watch Game of Thrones. It sort of made me happy when the finale of Game of Thrones come out. Everyone's like, are are you kidding me? They're like, they're like, everyone just turned on. They're like, screw, I hate this. And there's this meme, and it was amazing. It was a picture of the IMDb score for Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones had a 9.4 out of 10, and Breaking Bad had a 9.5. And then it showed the picture of Walter on the cell phone going like, I won.
That's right. And the last season of Game of Thrones solidified Breaking Bad at the top.
Yeah.
Of course, and you have some people like our parents' generation, West Wing, The Wire, Mad Men, especially The Wire and Mad Men. A lot of people think one of those two is the best, and The Sopranos. But yeah, your rude question about Game of Thrones gets us off topic again.
Oh, I had to.
And here's another name that we haven't brought up yet. Clint Eastwood. You mentioned, of course, some of the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, some of the Westerns that he was in as an actor. And so the first movie that I remember watching him in when I was a kid, the movie used to be on all the time, was it? He plays a service agent.
Great movie.
Who's old, past his prime. Very good movie. It's also got John Malkovich in it.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But anyway, his production and directing career is really interesting. He's got some duds, but he's got some movies that I like. I liked Sully. I liked American Sniper. J. Edgar was okay. I really liked Invictus and Gran Torino. The Mule, which he starred in and directed. He's a drug running old man. It was okay. And then Richard Jewell, which I have not seen yet, but that came out last year. I really want to watch. So he's had some well-known and some really successful films that he's directed and some of which he also stars in and some he doesn't. So
I've seen Unforgiven. I watched it again when I was about 15 or so, and everyone told me how great it was. I didn't like it. And then this past month I watched it again. I was like, oh, I'm 20, fresh perspective. I still don't like it. Something about that movie I just don't.
I like it, but it's not as great as older folks make it out to be. But I love High Plains Drifter, and I really love The Outlaw of Josie Wales.
High Plains Drifter.
Outlaw of Josie Wales is amazing.
High Plains Drifter is excellent because I did, and I was like watching like Clint Eastwood movies. Like Joe Kidd wasn't very good. I didn't like Pale Rider, and then like High Plains Drifter, his character is terrible. It's like and I'm not saying this because he was like, oh, I like this guy. He came into town and just rapes a woman.
Yep.
And it shows how stupid everyone is. Oh, we need him to save the town. He's like, okay, whatever. And he ends up burning down their town, killing 3 of their guys, and everyone just thinks he's like, oh, you're this hero. But it just shows how ignorant everyone was. And I love those. I love the Westerns. Not so much like the John Wayne ones where it's like good and evil, black and white. I liked where it's like all of the main characters, none of them are really good people. But like High Plains Drifter, he is absolutely a bad person. But it was good because he was still the main character because of that. So, yeah, great movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also with Clint Eastwood, what's funny is I actually learned today is he was putting in pools before he became an actor. And some guy started pointing out, like, hey, you should be in movies. And then he didn't get his, first lead acting role until Fistful of Dollars, which he was only paid $15,000 to do.
Wow.
Which I think is amazing. Yeah. It's crazy.
I think his best actual acting is probably Gran Torino, and I know he's some racist old man in that, but it's like I don't know, he goes full on in it, and he's obviously trying to show. I don't even know what he's trying to show. It's a great movie, but he's just a good actor in that. He really is.
Mm-hmm.
Again, then Mitch, you were talking about how Rian Johnson might be like this up and coming director, so I thought that would be a good question. Like who are some new directors, up and coming directors you think could be great one day? And I don't think we should really count Christopher Nolan because he already is, but I'd say people that just started directing movies in the past 10 years or so. So Isaac, who would you say is in that?
Yeah. So on my list, I have I hope I pronounce this right. Denis Villeneuve, who did Blade Runner 2049,
Yes.
Prisoner, Enemy, Arrival, and he's doing Dune, which I've heard the book's amazing. I'm excited for that. And also Taiki Waititi, who did Jojo Rabbit, and he did some Mandalorian stuff. And also I put Jordan Peele, Get Out. Us. I think he helped do like the new Twilight Zone. Then I'm excited for Candyman coming out this year, I think, or if it hasn't been delayed yet. So yeah, but Denis Villeneuve is the guy I love so far who's new.
Yeah, I put like he was top of my list was Denis Villeneuve, whatever.
Yeah.
Every movie I've seen of his is like great. Like I think Prisoners, in my opinion, is probably the best. Like it's the best like thriller crime mystery movie I've ever seen. It's just
It's great.
It's tense the entire time. Hugh Jackman's great in it. Jake Gyllenhaal is excellent in it. Blade Runner 2049 is great. And I liked Enemy's weird as heck, but it was still pretty solid. And then I also had Isaac. I'm surprised you didn't put it. I put Robert Eggers.
Oh, I forgot. I completely forgot. I'm mad at myself for that. I'm mad at myself.
He's only made 2 movies. I haven't seen The Witch, which I've heard's great. I can't remember what you thought of The Witch, Isaac. But then there's The Lighthouse, is excellent. One of the best movies of the past 10 years. It's just very original. Some of the best, like Willem Dafoe gives some of the best acting in that movie. So I'd say like the only 2 I had was Denis Villeneuve and Robert Eggers, but Taika Waititi's also a good choice, and Jordan Peele as well.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele is interesting to me, and I have almost no use for horror movies. Like if it's an action thriller type, like I love Silence of the Lambs, that type of thriller kind of crossover with horror. Jordan Peele is interesting to me though because he's doing things that are just new and fresh.
Yeah.
The other one that I put down, the Safdie brothers with Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
That movie. Have you guys seen it? Have you guys seen Uncut Gems?
I've only seen it one time.
I haven't, but I think it just came to Netflix like within the last couple of days. So it's on my watch list to watch this week.
So without giving away too many details, I went and watched it in theaters. I watched it in I think it was in the South Side of Indianapolis in a pretty large theater, and it was early in the day. There were very few people there. But anyway, it was one of the most memorable movie-going experiences that I've ever had. The way that they drive the plot and the way that the pace of the movie picks up in the second half, I literally, any of the anxiety that was in the movie that Adam Sandler and the other characters are feeling, I felt the anxiety. Like I felt what they were going through in a way that very few movies have ever made me feel. And it was because of how they moved the plot. The camera work was great. The dialogue was good, not great, but the way that they brought me in, because in the first half of the movie, I was literally this close from leaving. I was like, I just don't know if I want to sit here for the rest of this. Right. The second half of the movie hooked me in a way that very few movies ever have. And so because of that, I'm hoping that they can make more movies in the future that have that same kind of effect, even if it's a different storyline. Like the storyline of the sports gambler, to me is one that is okay. And I like sports and sports gambling, but I would love to see what they can do in taking movies other directions, but by hooking you in as a viewer the way that they do.
I would watch Good Time if I were you. That's the only one I've seen of theirs, but it's pretty good. Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like Robert Pattinson and his brother are bank robbers, and it's like his brother is mentally disabled or handicapped, so he's just slow, but it's just the whole time he's just on the he's just hanging by the skin of his teeth every second of that movie, and it's great.
Yeah,
it's really good. And then like Taika Waititi, I haven't seen Jojo Rabbit. I've seen Thor Ragnarok, which is good. I'd say at first I thought that movie was fine, but looking back, it's in the upper tier of the Marvel movies. And I've seen the movie. This movie's hilarious. It's called What We Do in the Shadows, and it's about these vampires living in New Zealand. It is hilarious. And then there's a show.
I think it's pretty good.
It's funny as heck. And then there was an FX show based off that movie, but it was about vampires in America, and I think he helps produce it. It's hilarious too. So yeah, I think Taika Waititi is way up there, and I like him as well. He's good. He's really good.
Also, going back to our least favorite directors, and I think you guys would agree, but Joel Schumacher, who did Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Mm.
Now, Batman and Robin's complete crap, but I'll watch it because it's Batman. But Batman Forever, I think, is on the verge of being okay, but that's just because it's Batman and it's Val Kilmer. But those two movies are crap, and Joel Schumacher ran Batman into the ground by directing those two movies. But luckily, Nolan came around and saved it.
I would agree.
Are there any this is I didn't write this, but is there any movie directors that you guys think is overrated? Like everyone thinks they're good, but you're like, it's fine. Like their stuff's fine. I don't think it's great by any stretch. Is there any directors that you guys feel that way about?
Well, you mentioned Michael Bay. I mean,
Yeah.
he still gets huge budgets to, and obviously, I mean, they draw people in. It's clear what his target audience is, and you want to go to the movie and have explosions and good graphics and something nice to look at if you're in an IMAX theater. But in terms of producing an actual plot with good acting, good dialogue, like, no.
I think I know Joss Whedon gets a lot of credit for helping with the MCU and establishing the tone of it. I think The Avengers is great, but I think Age of Ultron is a terrible letdown considering how well he did with the Avengers. So I guess he's overrated. I actually don't know how much he's directed. I know he made a movie called Cabin in the Woods, which is supposed to be great, but I haven't seen that. I don't know if you guys have or not.
Yeah, I saw it. It was really weird and out there, but like it was enjoyable, so I liked it.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you guys have anything else you can think of regarding directors, now's the time to say it because I can't. I think I'm done. I can't really think of anything else to talk about directors wise.
I think I'm good. I just miss going to the movies. Going to a movie theater for me is one of the most enjoyable experiences, and we live in an age where entertainment is at our fingertips. You can get Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all kinds of streaming services on your phone, anywhere you want it. But there's nothing like going and sitting in a movie theater to watch a film. And I can't wait till theaters are back open so that we can do that safely.
Yeah.
I agree.
That actually reminds me. There's Zack Snyder, who is somehow 50-50 on making great movies or mediocre to terrible movies. Like, I think Watchmen is great. I think 300 is pretty good. Batman v Superman is a solid movie. I understand why people hate it. I don't think it's great. Man of Steel's fine. Justice League is terrible. I don't think it's good. And then I don't know if you guys saw this, but they're actually I know Isaac did, but they're actually going to have the Zack Snyder version of Justice League coming to HBO Max next year. And I don't think, like he said, it's not his original vision, but he's going to take all the material he has and leftover footage and B-roll, and he's just going to make a new movie out of it, a new version of Justice League. And they even said that all the actors are coming back in voice only, not to act, but they're going to dub their voices over certain scenes or, animate it to where it looks like they're actually saying those things. So I'm fascinated to see how that turns out because there's rumors what he'll do with that. He'll make it a mini series or he'll make it just a 4-hour movie. But yeah, I guess he could also be in the group of he might be overrated. He might be terrible, even though some of his movies are great. That's just me.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, the Russo brothers, I think they're starting to come into their own with Winter Soldier, which is my favorite Marvel movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then did Civil War, then did Infinity War and Endgame. But also, I just watched the show Community. They directed a bunch of episodes, and it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Well, then they also helped with Extraction with Chris Hemsworth, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
Yep, I really like that. It was good action. And then I almost forgot this. For like action directors, I said I think there was actually two for this, but there was one main one. His name's like Chad Leitch or something. He's directed the John Wick movies, and the action in that is darn near unparalleled. There's also George Miller who did who's mainly on there for Fury Road because that movie is excellent when it comes to in my opinion that's like top 5 best action movie ever because all of it's practical. It's just I don't know, and it's just crazy. That movie's great. And also said Matthew Vaughn because he's good at like that real like hyper type of violence, like hyper realistic violence, like in Kingsman or something like that. So I think that'd be good as well. He's good as well, for sure. All right. Well, if that's it, I think we'll just wrap this up then. Thank you guys for coming on. I don't know if this is going to be anything. I don't think many people listen to it, but I'm mainly just doing it for fun. I'm not worried about it.
All right. I've got plenty of time. Anytime you want to talk about something, let me know.
All right.
Yep, same here.
We got about another 6 months of this, so we'll be fine.
See you guys.
All right. See you
All
later.
right, see ya.